They say the ocean remembers every name it takes, every body it swallows, every whisper beneath the waves. Tonight, we sail not upon calm waters, but into America's forgotten seas, where ships vanish without a trace, where ghostly beacons lure sailors ashore, where the tide itself seems hungry. These are not maps or histories. These are warnings etched in salt. Listen closely before the tide turns. Join the myth weaver, where forgotten stories breathe again. You stand at the edge of a New England harbor. The fog presses close, thick as wool, turning the world into a muted dream. Salt clings to your lips, and the water laps softly against the worn stone pier. It feels as though time itself has slowed here, as though centuries breathe through the mist. And then you hear it. A bell, low, muffled, and impossibly far below. Not from a steeple, not from a buoy, but from beneath the water's skin. It tolls once, heavy and patient. The sound trembles through the fog, fading into silence, before returning again. A funeral rhythm. A call no one dares to answer. They call it the sound of the drowned. The tolling of churches swallowed whole by the sea, their steeples toppled, their bells still bound to rusted beams deep below. Every sailor who has passed these coasts has heard the stories, and some, only some, swear they have heard the bells themselves. You breathe in the scent of tar, fish, wet rope. You imagine the harbor as it was 300 years ago, during the age of masts and sails. Wooden ships creaked at anchor, their hulls dark with pitch. Lanterns swayed in the night, casting gold light into the fog. Men in tricorn hats shuffled, cargo across the wharves, their boots striking the cobblestones with hollow rhythm. They too heard the bells. Some believed the sound was nothing more than shifting currents, rocks grinding against each other in the tide. But others whispered of villages claimed by storms, small chapels built too close to the sea, dragged down by waves and winter floods. They believed the bells still hung in the deep, swinging with the motion of the water, calling parishioners who would never return. One tale speaks of a church in Maine, built on an eroding bluff. Storm after storm tore at the cliff until one night the land gave way. The church slid into the sea whole, steeple first. Those on shore claimed the bell rang once as it fell, a toll that echoed through the storm, and some say it still rings, deep beneath the surface, whenever the tide is at its strongest. Another story drifts south, toward Massachusetts. There, fishermen tell of a hidden shoal where nets catch not on rock, but on beams of ancient timber. They whisper that a chapel lies below, its cross still standing, its bell rusted but unbroken. And when storms sweep across the bay, the weight of the sea stirs the bell once more. No diver has ever found it. But the sound, the sound returns, faint, mournful, impossible to deny. You close your eyes and let the image form. An underwater church. Stained glass shattered, colors drifting like shards of light through the dark. Pews toppled, hymnal books dissolved into paper-thin ghosts. And in the center, the bell, swaying with the current, a voice of metal that refuses silence. The sound is not only heard by sailors. Some villagers inland have claimed to hear it too, on nights when the fog rolls far across the fields. Imagine lying awake in a farmhouse bed, shutters rattling, air damp and chill. And through the silence comes a hollow ringing, steady and patient, as if the sea itself has reached for your ear. They say it is a reminder, a warning, that the sea takes what it wants, and it remembers what it has taken. History offers explanations, though none feel complete. The shifting seabed of New England groans and cracks, creating echoes that travel strange distances. Some buoys and channel markers do carry bells, struck by waves, though the tones they give are sharp and high, not deep and mournful. And yet, for centuries, men and women of sound mind have sworn the bells come from below, not above. The fog grows thicker in your imagination. You picture a captain standing on his deck, eyes narrowed, listening for the toll. His crew, silent and uneasy. They know what it means. Some refuse to set sail when the bells sound. Others spit into the sea, a gesture to ward off spirits. There are even tales of sailors who threw offerings overboard, coins, bottles of rum, even their boots, hoping the drowned would accept the gift and leave their ship unharmed. The bells became omens. If you heard them before a voyage, you might turn back, lest the ocean claim you next. If you heard them at sea, you might light every lantern, praying the glow would guide you home before the waters swallowed your hull. And if you heard them, in your sleep, it was said you would never wake. These are only stories. Yet the coast holds so many wrecks, thousands of ships splintered against its rocky shoals, that it is not hard to imagine their cargo, their crews, their very voices still, bound to the waves. Perhaps the bells are not churches at all, but the ship bells of the drowned, ringing from masts buried in sand. Each toll, a name lost to history. Each echo, a cry unanswered. You drift further into the rhythm. The bell tolls, and with each sound, you feel time loosen, unravel. You are not in the harbor anymore, but walking the seabed itself. Around you, beams of old ships rest like skeletons. Barnacles cover every surface. The water is still, yet your body does not struggle. You breathe as though air still surrounds you. And then, there it is, the church. Its steeple is broken, but its walls remain, covered in seaweed and coral. The bell swings, impossibly slow, struck by no hand, no clapper. Only the pressure of the ocean moves it, only the breath of the tide. The sound carries through the dark, through your chest, through your bones, not threatening, not cruel, simply patient, as though the sea has been waiting all along. You wonder, is it only bells? Or are there voices too, woven into the toll? The prayers of those who drowned when the walls gave way, the hymns of sailors who sank before landfall, the whispered names of ships long forgotten. The toll grows softer, the fog grows thicker, the harbor fades, and with it, the centuries. Still the sound lingers, faint and unresolved, a bell beneath the waves, waiting, calling. And as you drift deeper into silence, you cannot tell if it is the ocean's voice or your own dream returning to answer. The bell fades, yet its echo lingers in the mist. The fog closes in, carrying you onward, carrying you deeper, and somewhere beyond, another light flickers on the shore, a phantom lantern waiting in the dunes. Night has fallen along the Carolina coast. The dunes stretch like sleeping giants, their ridges silvered by moonlight. The tide withdraws with a hiss, leaving the sand damp and shining. And across the horizon, the sea sighs, endless and black. It is here, in this shifting no man's land between ocean and shore, that the lights appear. At first, you think it is nothing, perhaps a reflection, perhaps a trick of the eye, but then, unmistakable, a glow, golden and fragile, drifting along the line where the dunes break the horizon, a lantern moving slowly, bobbing as though carried by an unseen hand. The beach is empty. No footsteps mark the sand, and still, the light moves. You hear the sailors' whispers echoing through time. They call them the phantom lights. For centuries, men steering their ships towards safe harbor have followed these glows, believing they were guides, signals from shore. But those who steered toward them rarely returned. The coast of the Carolinas is no gentle land. It is a graveyard of shifting sands, of shoals and hidden bars that rise and vanish with the seasons. The outer banks, narrow strips of barrier islands, are surrounded by waters that pull like living things. Hundreds, thousands of wrecks lie buried beneath the surf, their bones covered in barnacles, their names forgotten. And among these wrecks, the stories of lights. Moving lanterns, guides that never led to safety. You walk slowly along the shore. The sand is cool, damp, uneven. The air smells of brine and marsh, tinged with the faint sweetness of seagrass. The night is quiet, only the cry of a distant gull, only the hush of the tide, and yet the glow appears again, closer this time, dancing just beyond the reach of the dunes. Some say these are no spirits at all, but wreckers, men of flesh and blood, who once lived by cruelty. They tied lanterns to horses or donkeys, leading them along the dunes. From sea, the bobbing light resembled the swinging lantern of a safe ship or the glow of a harbour beacon. Sailors, desperate for guidance in the dark, steered toward it, straight into the hidden shoals where their ships splintered, and when the sea claimed them, wreckers rushed to the shore, stripping the cargo, taking what they wished. It is said entire villages survived this way, living on the bones of ships they had condemned. But if it were only men, the lights would not linger still, for the wreckers are long gone, yet the lanterns remain. Fishermen tell of nights when they saw lights wandering over dunes where no path exists. Hunters recall watching a glow move against the wind, steady as if held by invisible hands. Shipwreck, survivors, half drowned and trembling, swore the lights led them inland, away from safety, until they collapsed in marsh or sand, never to be found again. The dunes never give back those who follow. You imagine the scene, a storm raging, waves breaking over the shoals, a ship, its sails shredded, its crew frantic, searching for a sign of land. And there, through sheets of rain, a lantern glow, a guide, a promise of safety. They steer toward it, but the light does not wait. It drifts inland, into the shifting shadows of the dunes. And the ship strikes the sandbar, cracks, founders. The men stagger into the surf, clinging to wreckage. Some reach shore, crawling, gasping. And there, the lantern, moving, patient, leading them into the dunes. They rise, follow, and are never seen again. Not all believe the lights to be malicious. Some whisper they are guardians, warnings rather than lures. That the dead sailors themselves hold lanterns to mark where wrecks lie, guiding the living away from danger. But why then do the dunes claim those who follow? Why do the lights vanish just when safety seems near? The night deepens around you. The moon slips behind a cloud. Darkness swallows the dunes, save for the lone glow, still drifting. Your breath slows. Your steps sink deeper into sand. You feel as though the light waits for you, beckoning, patient, sure. Local legend speaks of the headless lantern keeper, a man who once walked the shore in storms, guiding ships towards safety with his light. But in one great gale, he was swept away, body never found. Now, they say, his lantern walks without him, a headless glow in the fog, searching endlessly for the ships he could not save. Others tell of the drowned themselves, carrying lanterns through eternity, calling their shipmates to follow. Their lights are not warnings, not lures, but simply echoes, repetitions of their final desperate act, played over and over across centuries. Still, the question lingers. If no one holds the lanterns, why do they move as though they do? Why do they pause, wait, and continue, like footsteps in the dark? You stand still, watching. The glow flickers once, twice, as though in answer, and then it drifts deeper into the dunes. Sand shifts under your feet. The air grows heavier, filled with the smell of salt and grass. The silence presses close. If you follow, where will it lead? Your heartbeat slows with the rhythm of the surf. You think of the countless sailors who once walked this same path, dripping with seawater, coughing brine, clutching their last hope. They saw what you see. They believed in it. They stepped forward, and the dunes closed over them. The lantern flickers again, closer now, so close you could almost reach it, but there is no figure, no hand, no body, no bearer, only the light, suspended in the night air, swaying gently as though carried by the tide. You feel it pulling at you, not with force, but with suggestion, an invitation. One step more, just one. And yet, you know the stories, you know the dunes. Never give back those who follow. The sea sighs behind you. The dunes loom before you. The lantern waits. And slowly, very slowly, the glow begins to fade. First dimming, then trembling, then sinking into the shadows of the sand until nothing remains. Silence fills the shore. Only the tide remains, drawing breath in and out, as though the world itself sleeps. But the question lingers in you still. Were the lights warnings? Were they traps? Were they memories caught forever in the fog? The dunes do not answer. The sea does not answer. And the lantern, wherever it has gone, leaves only the faintest echo of light in your mind. The glow has faded, yet your eyes still search the dark. The sea murmurs, the dunes shift, the fog curls low. And far, away, beyond the horizon, another sound stirs. A bell, deep and hollow, rising from beneath the waves. You stand at the edge of the Outer Banks. Cape Hatteras curves into the Atlantic like a crooked finger, pointing into danger. The air tastes of salt and storm. The horizon is restless, never still. This is the graveyard of the Atlantic. For centuries, sailors feared this place, not for pirates, not for enemies, but for the sea itself. Here the ocean changes its mind, currents collide, winds shift without warning, and hidden shoals rise like teeth from the dark. A ship may sail steady one moment, then shatter the next. They say more than 5,000 wrecks lie buried in these waters. Merchant brigs and schooners, Spanish galleons, their holds filled with silver, steamships, their iron ribs now rusted bones. Warships from both Union and Confederate fleets, swallowed, whole. Even modern vessels, steel torn as though it were paper. The sea remembers them all. You hear it in the roar of the waves. The breakers strike the shoals with the sound of distant cannon fire. Each crash is heavy, echoing, endless. The water throws, itself against sand and stone, tearing wood to splinters, snapping masts like matchsticks. Close your eyes, and you can almost hear the screams that once followed. Men shouting orders, men praying, men plunging into the cold. The Atlantic has swallowed voices by the thousands, and in the night wind, some swear they still hear them, faint cries riding the gale, as though the past has not finished breaking apart. You picture the divers who come here now. They descend through shifting water, light refracted, colors dim. Their lamps sweep across the seabed, illuminating anchors bound in coral, chains tangled and rusted, cannons half buried in sand. Fishes swim where crews once stood. Seaweed drapes, itself over beams like tattered flags. Each wreck is a coffin, but also a cathedral. Silent, patient, eternal. Not all wrecks give up their secrets. Some lie just beyond reach, in waters too violent to approach. Currents snatch divers and drag them away, as though the sea itself guards what it has taken. There are stories of men who descended into the graveyard and never rose again. The ocean gave them no reason, only silence. Locals know this well. Fishermen, lighthouse keepers, families who have lived along these islands for generations. They tell you the same thing. The sea here is alive. It chooses. It decides. One ship may pass unscathed, while another, following the same path, is broken in an instant. No chart explains it. No captain commands it. Legends grow in such soil. They speak of a spirit of the Cape, an ancient hand hidden beneath the waves, dragging ships down for reasons of its own. Some call it a ghost fleet, the restless dead pulling others into their company. Others whisper of a curse, laid long ago by tribes who watched foreign sails appear on their horizon. The ocean, they say, obeyed their vow. Let none cross these waters without loss. History leaves its own marks. During the Civil War, Blockade runners slipped past Union ships under moonless skies. Many did not return. During World War II, German U-boats prowled just offshore, sending tankers and freighters to the bottom. Even in the 20th century, the graveyard claimed ship after ship, reminding men that steel is no match for water, and still, it continues. Storms rise from the tropics, sweep northward, and break themselves here with sudden fury. Hurricanes twist through the banks, shifting entire islands, redrawing maps overnight. The land itself seems as unsteady as the sea. What stands today may vanish tomorrow. You walk the beach at dusk. The sand is coarse beneath your feet, strewn with driftwood and shell. The air is damp, heavy with the smell of salt. Ahead, a lighthouse stands tall. Hatteras light, its spiral stripes watching. Over the endless surf, its beam turns, slow and solemn, sweeping across the waves. But even the lighthouse cannot save them all. Its warning comes too late for many. For every vessel guided to safety, another has already joined the graveyard. Imagine the moment of breaking. A hull strikes shoal, timbers scream. The mast snaps, sails collapse into the water. Waves pour across the deck, tearing away men and cargo alike. The ocean surges in, merciless, claiming what it will. And when morning comes, only wreckage remains, floating. Planks, scattered barrels, perhaps a body washed ashore. The rest lies beneath, lost. Sometimes, after storms, fragments still surface. A section of deck, a length of rope, stiff with salt, a nameplate, carved in letters no one remembers. The sea gives back only pieces, never the whole. Locals gather these relics, placing them in small museums, telling visitors of the countless ships that lie unseen just offshore. Yet they speak softly, with respect, as though each object still belongs to the ocean, only borrowed for a while. For those who live here, the graveyard is not just a story, it is daily life. They fish its waters, cross its channels, breathe its salt, and always they listen for its moods. The sea may grant them a harvest, or it may take without warning. Every family here knows someone lost. A father, a brother, a son who went out and never came home. Their names are etched in memory, joined with those of thousands of sailors from centuries past. And so the belief endures, that the sea itself chooses which it spares, that it is not chance, not skill, but something older, deeper, stranger, a decision beyond human knowing. You stand again on the shore, waves crashing like drums. The lighthouse beam sweeps across your face. The horizon is dark, restless, endless. Beneath it lie centuries of ships, centuries of voices. The graveyard is quiet tonight, but you feel its presence, immense, watchful, patient. The sea waits. It always waits. And as the tide pulls outward, whispering across the sand, you cannot tell if it is receding or if it is reaching, preparing to take once more. The breakers roar, then soften, as though the sea has spoken and fallen silent again. The lighthouse beam turns, slow as a heartbeat, and far to the north, where the coast grows wild, the tide coils itself into a spiral, a hungry whirlpool waiting in the dark. The coast of Maine is no gentle shore. Its rocks rise jagged, sharp as broken teeth. Its forests lean over the sea, dark pines whispering in the wind. And where the tides are strongest, the water turns restless, circling, pulling, devouring. Here lies the whirlpool. You hear it before you see it. The rush of water, deep and constant, louder than the waves. It sounds like a beast breathing, in and out, in and out. A rhythm older than memory. The fishermen know it well. They speak of it in hushed tones, never at night. For it is not only ships that vanish here, it is men swallowed whole, dragged down without a trace. Some call it the Old Sow, a name whispered along Passamaquoddy Bay. It is the largest whirlpool in the Western Hemisphere, a moor in the sea where tides collide. Twice each day, the ocean squeezes through narrow passages, water rushing like floodgates torn open. Currents twist and meet, spinning into spirals wide as fields, deep as caverns. From above, the sea boils with foam. From below, no one knows how far the pull extends. And yet, the fishermen say, it is not ships the whirlpool craves. Wooden hulls ride the edge, tossed but not taken. What disappears are the men themselves. A boat may return, its nets half full, its mast still standing, but with one less hand aboard. No splash, no cry, only absence. As though the whirlpool does not hunger for timber, but for souls. You picture standing on a cliff above it. The eye away, air sharp with salt, the rocks slick with spray. Below, the sea spins, pulling the very light into its throat. Sunlight fractures on the foam, swallowed and broken. The circle grows, contracts, grows again, an endless breath. You feel it tug, at you even from shore, an invitation, a warning. The Passamaquoddy people told stories of this place long before maps named it. They spoke of a great sea serpent, coiled beneath the water, its body stirring the tides with every movement. When it fed, the whirlpool opened wide. When it slept, the waters calmed. But it always woke again. Always. Later, sailors carried their own legends. Some claimed the whirlpool was a gateway to the underworld, a mouth through which the drowned were drawn below. Others swore they saw faces in the foam, eyes wide, mouths open, souls of the lost calling upward as they sank. They believed the whirlpool fed not on the body, but on the spirit, dragging it into depths where no prayer could reach. Science, of course, speaks of tides and channels, of friction and gravity. The Bay of Fundy bears the world's highest tides, and when that water rushes past Deer Island, it turns, twists, spins. The explanation is clear, precise, tidy, and yet, no chart explains the feeling, that strange certainty, standing on the rocks, that the whirlpool is watching you, choosing. You imagine the fishermen steering their boats near its edge, the air damp, their hands raw from rope, their eyes fixed on the water's spinning mouth. They cast nets, hoping for herring or mackerel, while knowing the sea may take something else in return. One wrong move, one slip of balance, and the current drags them under. Not always the whole boat, sometimes only the man. The crew returns, silent, shaken, with a space where he once stood, and the whirlpool closes again, as though nothing happened. Some say offerings may appease it, coins tossed into the foam, bottles of rum, small carved figures left on the rocks. Fishermen's wives tied ribbons to driftwood and cast them adrift, praying the sea would be satisfied with cloth and not with flesh. Whether these gifts worked, no one could say. But still, they gave them. Better a ribbon lost than a husband. You close your eyes and imagine being drawn in, the water cold, surging, pulling at your arms, your legs. No struggle matters. The sea chooses, not you. You sink, the light above spinning away, foam closing over your head. And then silence, not fear, not pain, only silence, thick and eternal. The whirlpool has claimed you. Divers avoid it. Even in modern times, with tanks and lights, they will not enter its circle. They say the currents beneath twist without pattern, ropes tangling, bodies pinned against unseen rocks. Those who dare descend often surface far from where they began, disoriented, shaken, unwilling to speak of what they saw. One diver, years ago, returned pale and silent, swearing he heard voices below. A chorus, faint but clear, rising from the depths. He never dove again. And still, the whirlpool waits. Every tide, it breathes. Every day, it opens. Endless, patient, hungry. You wonder if the hunger is not of the sea, but of memory itself. Perhaps the whirlpool swallows not bodies, not ships, but the stories of those who pass, dragging them into silence, erasing their names, until only the circle of foam remains. A mouth of forgetting, a spiral of erasure, and yet the legends survive. Each generation repeats them, as though defying the whirlpool's appetite. The sea may claim, but the stories resist. The whirlpool may erase, but the whispers return. You listen now. The rush of water is steady, hypnotic. It fills your ears, your chest, your pulse, like a lullaby but darker, like a heartbeat but not your own. The sea breathes, and you breathe with it. One day, perhaps, the whirlpool will still, the tides will shift, the currents calm, the circle close forever. But until then, it waits, tireless. And as you stand on the main coast, the rocks cold beneath, your hands, you cannot shake the feeling that it does not only wait for anyone, it waits for you. The tide exhales, pulling the foam back into the circle. The whirlpool narrows, shivers, then swells again, eternal as breath. And beyond the horizon, in waters black and endless, something stirs beneath, a shadow with eyes, a presence older than storms. The waters of Alaska are not like the seas of the South. They are colder, darker, more secretive. The waves roll heavy and slow, their surfaces black as obsidian. Mist clings to the air, and the silence is broken only by the hollow cries of gulls. You stand at the edge of this northern ocean, and you feel it. A weight beneath, vast and patient, older than storms. The fishermen know it well. They cast their nets into the deep, hands raw from the cold, breath fogging in the air, and sometimes, when they pull the ropes back, the nets do not return whole. They rise torn, shredded into ribbons, as though dragged across blades, as though something with claws had torn them apart. The sea holds many dangers, icebergs, storms, currents swift as rivers, but none explain the nets, torn without warning when the water was still. None explain the marks left on wood and rope, long gouges, deep and deliberate. The elders whisper of it, not in daylight, not in comfort, but in quiet voices by firelight. They say there is a creature here, vast as an island, older than the mountains, patient as the sea. It lives in the black waters, rising only when hunger stirs. A beast of endless, watching. Some call it the Tijaruk, the sea serpent of the Arctic. Others name it the Aklut, a creature born of wolf and orca, shifting between land and water. Inuit legends speak of beings that cross the line between human and beast, between spirit and tide. But all the names point to one truth. Something lurks beneath, unseen but felt. Sailors tell of nights when the water is calm, and yet they cannot shake the sense of being watched. They look over the rail and swear the sea is not just surface and depth, but eyes, vast eyes, peering up from the dark, following every movement. Some claim they have seen them, pale glimmers in the water, circles of light that vanish when called out, too large for fish, too patient for chance. The stories go back generations. Long before modern trawlers and engines, kayaks slid across these waters. Hunters carried harpoons tipped with bone, paddling into fog. Some returned with seals, fish, whale. Others did not return at all. Their kayaks drifted back empty, scarred, the wood splintered, and those who searched the waves swore they heard sounds below. A low groan, a rush of water, as if something vast had just turned over in its sleep. You imagine it now, the still surface, glass black, and beneath it, coils, massive, slow, shifting, through the dark, or perhaps not coils, but fins, or something stranger, something without name, something the ocean alone could birth. Some divers have spoken of shadows in the deep, descending through green water, their lamps piercing only a small circle of clarity. They felt it, the sense of being swallowed by darkness that was not only water. Once, a diver surfaced trembling, swearing he had seen a shape stretch beyond his sight, larger than any whale, moving with silence. He never dove again. The sea here is a wilderness, untamed, unknowable. It has swallowed ships whole, crushed by ice, battered by storms. But the sailors do not fear the storms most. They fear the nights of calm, when the sea is flat as glass. For then they say the lurker stirs. Then the eyes appear. One tale tells of a crew who anchored in a quiet bay, their nets set for the night. The water was still, the stars bright above. But as midnight came, the boat rocked gently, then harder, though no wind blew. The men rushed to the rail, peering down. Beneath them, a glow, faint and shifting. Two circles, side by side, eyes, vast, unblinking, rising from the deep. The men froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. And then the glow sank, the water calming, as if nothing had been. By morning, their nets were gone. Were they torn away by current, or carried by something larger, something alive? Legends grow in silence. Some believe the beast is guardian, not predator, that it watches, judges, spares, or takes as it chooses. Others claim it is vengeance itself, born from the souls of those who drowned, gathering into a shape the living can only glimpse, and a few whisper it is eternal, a remnant of a world before men walked these shores. Still, no one speaks with certainty. The ocean keeps its secrets. You breathe in the cold air. The horizon is wide, endless, shivering with pale light. The water laps softly, black as ink, and you feel it again, that sense of presence, something beneath, silent, patient, watching. Perhaps it is only your mind, shaped by stories. Perhaps it is only tide and current, net and rope. But the sea has a way of planting doubts, of reminding you how little you know of what lies below. For the truth is this: the ocean covers more of the earth than land. And of that vastness, most remains unmapped, unseen. What else could dwell in those depths? What else could rise unseen, waiting? The fishermen do not ask such questions aloud. They mend their nets, they cast their lines, they pray in silence. And when their nets rise torn, they say nothing. Only glance at the water, wary, respectful, as though acknowledging a presence, as though greeting an unseen neighbor. You stand with them in spirit now, listening to the waves. The water sways, gently, calm as sleep. And yet, beneath that calm, you sense a stirring. The lurker shifts in its vastness. The eyes turn, watching, patient. It does not move against you. It does not strike. But it remembers. The sea is not empty. It has never been empty. And when you turn from the shore, the feeling lingers. That the ocean's gaze follows you still, unblinking, from the depths. The tide hushes against the rocks, a slow breath in the dark. The horizon shimmers, but the water beneath holds still, secret, watchful. And far to the south, the fog thickens, heavy and grey, carrying voices across the bay, calling names that should not be heard. The fog arrives like a thief. It rolls in low, spilling over the hills, drowning the city's edges in grey. It muffles the sound of waves against the shore, and even the gulls grow silent, their cries lost in the thick curtain of air. Here, in San Francisco Bay, the fog is not just weather, it is presence, it is veil, it is memory, carrying whispers not of this world. You stand at the water's edge. The Golden Gate lies hidden, its towers erased by the weight of mist. The city behind you fades, its lights swallowed, leaving only the lapping tide and the slow groan of wood against the docks. Out there, unseen, ferries cross the bay. They move cautiously, horns sounding in low, mournful calls that vanish almost instantly into the grey. But the horns are not the only voices that linger in this fog. Listen, there, a name, spoken softly, not shouted, not called in desperation, but murmured as though from lips inches from your ear. Yet no one stands beside you. The voice comes from the fog itself, from the water beneath, from the memory of those who never returned. The drowned. The bay has taken many, storms sweeping through the strait. Fishermen lost when boats overturned. Prisoners who leapt from Alcatraz, believing they could swim through tides that claw like hands. Some bodies washed ashore. Others were never seen again. And it is said that the fog remembers them all, that in its drifting folds, the dead still speak. The ferrymen know this. Their job has always been to cross, to move from shore to shore, from city to island, from life to work and back again. And they have their rules. Never answer the fog. Never call back to the voices you hear. No matter if the name is your own, no matter if the voice is one you loved. Because some who answered never came back. There are stories. A ferryman once heard his wife's voice in the fog, soft, pleading, calling his name. She had died the year before, lost to fever. But her voice was clear as breath beside him, asking him to step away from the tiller, to come closer, to follow. The boat was later found adrift, empty, the lantern still burning. The man was gone. Another tale tells of a boy, barely grown, who rowed across the bay at dawn. The fog was thick that morning, and as he pulled the oars, he heard laughter, his sister's laughter, though she lived miles inland. He stopped, listening, and the laughter moved farther from the boat, fading into the mist. The boy followed it, rowing toward a sound only he could hear. The boat was later discovered half sunk, tangled in kelp. Of the boy, nothing. You can feel how it happens. The fog is disorienting. It blinds you, steals away your bearings. You lose the horizon, the shore, the very line between air and sea. And in that blindness, a voice can seem closer than truth. You turn, you follow, you drift, and soon you are lost. But there are those who believe it is not just confusion, not just illusion. They say the fog itself carries spirits, that those who drowned here linger still, their voices caught in the grey folds, calling out to the living. Perhaps not with malice, perhaps simply lonely, perhaps desperate for company, for remembrance, for the warmth of another soul in the endless chill. Sailors whisper of the grey hands, unseen but felt, brushing against boats as they pass through heavy mist. Some claim to see shapes moving, figures half-formed, walking upon water, dissolving as the fog shifts. Others tell of faces, pale and wet, appearing only for a heartbeat before vanishing. And always the voices, always the names. You stand still, now imagining it. The horn of a ferry moans in the distance. The water laps softly against the pilings, and beneath it, faint, another sound, not the horn, not the tide. A whisper, a syllable stretched thin, a name you almost know. Would you answer? Some did, and some vanished. No record, no trace, only stories passed along in low voices among ferrymen and dock workers. Warnings written, not in books, but in silence, in rituals unspoken. There is something dreamlike in it, this idea of fog as threshold, as doorway between the living and the lost. San Francisco itself is young compared to ancient cities, but even here, myth has seeped in with the mist. Perhaps the fog is not only air and water, perhaps it is a shroud, a veil between worlds. And when it drapes the bay, the veil thins. Scientists will tell you fog bends sound, that voices carry strangely, stretched and muffled, bouncing across water so that a whisper seems beside you, even when it is far away. They will say memory plays tricks, that grief sharpens the ear, that silence breeds hallucination. But science does not explain why so many vanish, why nets return empty of men, why ferries drift without captains. It does not explain why the same warnings echo through centuries. You draw your coat tighter. The air is damp, clinging, cold enough to sting your skin. Breath curls into vapor, joining the grey. Somewhere out there, a ship moves unseen, its motor low, steady. And then, faint as a sigh, you hear it again, a voice. It says your name, slow, clear, tender. And for a moment, the urge to follow is stronger than sense. Perhaps that is how it begins. Not with terror, but with longing. Not with fear, but with familiarity. A voice you love, reaching from the mist, promising reunion. You lean forward, listening, your heart softening, and the fog thickens, pulling you away from shore. The ferrymen know. That is why they keep their silence. Why their faces are set, their mouths closed, their eyes fixed ahead. They hear the voices, too. They simply never answer. And still, some nights boats vanish. Still, some mornings, the fog clears to reveal emptiness. The whispers carry on. The bay remembers. The drowned are not done calling. The fog shifts around you now, heavy, alive. You see nothing beyond arm's reach. You hear only water, horn, and voice. And you know, the whispers will never end. The fog will keep them. The bay will hold them. And one day, perhaps, it will call your name as well. The mist curls tighter, folding the world into silence. The voices fade, though the memory of them lingers, haunting the breath. And far across the water, a dim light flickers. A lantern that should not be there, swaying on the dunes, beckoning. You hold it in your hands now. A map, weathered, brittle, salt-stained. Its edges curl, scorched, as though it survived fire. The ink bleeds, blurred by seawater, yet the lines remain. Rivers, coasts, strange symbols, scratched like wounds into the parchment. It feels alive, faintly damp, as if it had only just been pulled from the ocean, the cursed chart of mariners. It is said the map has no maker, or perhaps too many. Each sailor who claimed it swore it came to them not by purchase or trade, but by chance. A drifted chest, a bottle washed ashore, a folded sheet found in a drowned man's coat. The map returns again and again, refusing to be lost. Look closer. The coastlines are wrong. They bend where no land lies. Islands appear where no cartographer has ever marked them. Sometimes rivers flow backward into seas, or mountains stand where only waves should be. The lines twist, like veins, like scars, like something organic trying to disguise itself as geography. And yet, it tempts. To sailors, weary of empty horizons, it offers promise. A shortcut, a hidden harbor, riches on unnamed shores. It lures them, whispering of routes no one else has sailed. But the crews who followed it never returned. There are stories whispered in taverns along the coast, of a brigantine called the Morning Star that set out from Boston, guided by the chart. Weeks passed. No word came. Then, one dawn, a fisherman found the Morning Star's longboat drifting empty into harbor. Inside, a single object, the map, edges blackened, folded neatly. Another tale tells of the Calypso's wake, bound for Havana. Her captain boasted of a hidden passage drawn upon his chart, a way to shave days from the journey. They left beneath a clear sky, sails full, the crew laughing. They never reached Havana. Months later, wreckage washed ashore, and tangled in the beams, the cursed chart waited once more. You imagine those voyages now, the sea stretching endless, the captain leaning over the parchment, tracing those strange lines with trembling finger, the crew glancing nervously at each other, whispering of ill-omened maps, yet too bound by command to turn away. The horizon warps. The stars no longer match the sky, and then nothing. Some say the map is haunted, that the ink was drawn with the blood of drowned sailors, the parchment skinned from sails that sank beneath storm. Others believe it is alive, shifting each time it appears, its geography bending to lure fresh prey. And a few whisper that it is not a map at all, but a trapdoor, that when a ship follows its lines, it sails not into seas, but into some other place, a place no one returns from. You run your fingers along its surface. The paper feels rough, grainy, almost like skin. The salt stains shimmer faintly, and you swear the lines twitch as though adjusting themselves beneath your touch. Could it be illusion? Could salt and age create such strangeness? Or is the map indeed alive, breathing faintly, waiting for another hand to carry it out to sea? Cartographers have tried to study it, but each time the map resists. In lamplight, the lines blur. By morning, coasts have shifted, rivers reversed. Ink runs like fresh blood. The scholars argue, scribbling notes, yet none agree on what they saw. Some claim their copies dissolved overnight, leaving only blank parchment. Others burned theirs, yet swore they still heard waves crashing in the dark as though the chart lived on in memory. And always, without fail, the original returns to the water. It will not be kept. It will not be destroyed. It waits, patient, drifting back to the shore, seeking new eyes, new hands, new victims. Think of the sailors who unrolled it in candlelight, the smell of tar and salt thick in their nostrils, the deck groaning beneath them. They lean closer, arguing over impossible coastlines, debating whether to risk it. Superstition whispers. Maps can lie. Seas can deceive. Some knowledge is not meant for men, but hunger pushes them onward. Hunger for treasure, for land, for return. And so they set course by its crooked lines. You wonder what they saw. Did the sea stretch wider than it should? Did the stars rearrange, constellations unfamiliar above their masts? Did islands rise from fog, lush and green, only to dissolve when they reached the shore? Some say crews who followed the map sailed into endless storms. Others believe they slipped into waters where time itself bends, where days stretch like centuries, where no ship can ever return. And then, the final whisper, that those who vanished did not truly die, that they are trapped still, sailing forever, along the crooked lines of the cursed chart. A ghost fleet, bound to a sea no map can name. Their faces pale, their eyes hollow, their sails tattered but eternal. Sometimes, on stormy nights, fishermen claim to glimpse them, masts swaying in the mist, voices calling from nowhere. Perhaps they are still searching for port. Perhaps they are warning others away. Or perhaps they are bound, doomed to lure the next crew after them. The chart in your hands grows heavier. The salt stains glisten. The lines shimmer faintly, twisting, like worms rearranging before your eyes. And in that shifting, you see the shape of something else. Not land, not sea. Something deeper. Something vast. Something watching. The candle beside you sputters. The map folds itself with a whispering sound, as though it too is breathing. You set it down, heart slow, hands cold. You know what comes next. The chart will vanish. It will find another. It always does. And somewhere, another crew will follow it into silence. The folded chart lies still, though you know it is not. Already, the ink shifts, the coastlines bend, the trap waits. And far beyond the horizon, a pale glow trembles on the waves. A light that should not be there, swaying on the sea's breath, calling the next voyage onward. The gulf is wide, warm, and restless. Its waters shimmer with light by day and roll heavy with storms by night. But within its shifting tides, its weaving currents, sailors whisper of something stranger than storm or swell. They speak of an island that should not exist. You see it as they did. A fog rises, low and pale, veiling the horizon. The sea is calm, though the air feels thick, fragrant, touched with something sweet. And then, slowly, a shape forms. Land, a curve of shore, pale as bone, trees bending in stillness, and carried on the wind, a scent, flowers. Flowers that no man has ever found upon the Gulf's waters. The men lean forward, straining to see. Is it mirage, heat and haze bending light? But the smell is too real, too heavy, clinging to their throats. The island waits as though inviting them ashore. Some did. They lowered their boats, their oars dipping silently, their eyes wide with wonder. They reached the shore, their feet pressing into sand damp and strange. And then they vanished, never to return. The island did not wait. By the time their shipmates called out, the fog thickened and the land dissolved, fading into horizonless water. No trace remained. It has been called many names: Phantom Isle, the shifting shore. Most often, the isle that never was. Sailors argued over its reality. Some swore they had seen it with their own eyes, smelled its flowers, felt its soil, beneath their boots. Others mocked, saying it was no more than mirage, a trick of sun and heat on restless waves. Yet the tales repeat, generation after generation, from coasts near Florida, from the mouth of the Mississippi, from far-off ports in Mexico. Too many voices echo the same story. Maps once bore its mark. Old charts show small dots of land, uncertain, drawn faintly with question marks. Cartographers labeled them with hesitant names: Arenosa, Antilia, San Bernardo. None stayed. Each was erased in time, as voyages failed to prove them. But the whispers outlived the maps. Think of the mariners who first told these tales. Men with salt-stung eyes, skin burnt by sun, hearts weary of endless water. For them, the sight of land was salvation. Food, rest, safety. To see it rise from mist was to feel deliverance. But for some, salvation turned to disappearance. The Gulf itself is full of mystery. Its currents twist like veins, carrying silt, debris, and drift from far rivers. Storms rise without warning, tearing ships apart. Islands shift, sands moving with tide and hurricane, appearing one year, gone the next. Science explains much, but not the scent of flowers where none grow, not the vanishings, not the isle that appears and disappears as though it has its own will. Some believe it is enchanted, a place caught between worlds. Perhaps the land of the drowned, surfacing only long enough to claim more. Perhaps a trick of spirits, luring sailors with beauty, then closing around them like jaws. The flowers, they say, are offerings, perfumes drifting across the sea to mask the scent of death. Others tell older stories, that before men sailed these waters, the island belonged to gods or giants who drew it up from the sea when they wished, to walk upon it and let it sink when they grew weary. Some imagine it as a remnant of Atlantis, drifting still, surfacing in fragments before vanishing again, and still others claim it is alive. Not land at all, but something vast, something breathing. An island-sized creature that rises for air, its back mistaken for soil, its moss for trees, its breath for mist. The men who step upon it are not walking upon land, but upon flesh. And when it sinks again, it drags them with it, down into the endless dark. You picture the moment, a crew leaping ashore, laughing, relieved. They smell flowers, they hear faint birdsong, though no birds are seen. They wander, calling out, exploring. The ship waits offshore, crewmen anxious, watching fog coil thicker. And then the island fades, as though dissolving into the sea. The men are gone. Their voices do not return. But the scent lingers. Sometimes, sailors claim, long after the island has vanished. The fragrance of flowers drifts across the deck, faint but undeniable. A reminder or a warning, or perhaps a tether between worlds. Even now, with satellites mapping every coast, with ships tracing every channel, the legend persists. Stories still emerge of strange landforms glimpsed in fog, of crews reporting the smell of blossoms upon the wind, always unproven, always fading before evidence can be caught. And so the isle that never was waits, a dream of land in a restless sea, a promise that lures, a trap that takes, a mirage too real to dismiss. You stand at the edge of the gulf, the water warm against your feet. Mist drifts in from the horizon, pale and slow. The air shifts and you smell it, soft, sweet, floral, a fragrance no breeze should carry here. You close your eyes, and in the darkness you see it. A pale shore, a line of trees, shadows moving just beyond sight. When you open your eyes, the horizon is empty. Only water, only waves, only silence. But the scent lingers, and you wonder if the island has already passed you by, waiting for another hand, another voyage, another voice to follow its promise. The fragrance fades, leaving only salt, only sea. The horizon glimmers, empty, endless, yet you cannot shake the sense of land just beyond vision. And in the darkening sky, storm clouds gather, swallowing light, as if the ocean itself prepares to open. The sea is never finished. You stand upon its edge and it feels endless, unbroken, eternal. But tonight, it is more than vast. It is devouring. The horizon has disappeared. What once was line, blue upon blue, is gone, swallowed by a wall of storm. The sky is black, though it is not night. It is day turned inside out, sun extinguished, light hidden. Clouds swell like mountains, roiling, shifting, opening their jaws. The wind strikes first, sharp, slicing. It cuts across your face, your chest. Salt spray lashes like knives, stinging your eyes, burning your lips. You taste iron in the brine. It is as though the sea itself has grown teeth. Thunder follows, not distant, not above, but inside you. The sky groans, then roars, shaking marrow, rattling thought, breaking silence into shards. It is a drumbeat too large for the human body to hold. The sea rises, heaves, swells. Waves climb higher than masts, higher than hope. Each one curls, white and furious, then crashes with force that shudders through wood, through rope, through bone. You feel the deck beneath you groan. Every nail, every seam cries out. Prayers rise. You hear them, voices roar, cracked with salt and fear. Hands clutch beads, icons, scraps of scripture. But the sea does not listen. The storm takes those prayers as it takes breath, as it takes men, as it takes ships. The words vanish into spray, carried away, swallowed whole. History is full of such endings. Think of the Spanish galleons, their holds swollen with silver, never reaching Spain. Think of the whalers, their lamps full of oil, dragged under in a single gust. Think of the slave ships, human cargo shackled in darkness, their cries drowned beneath the crash of waves. No ocean ledger records them, yet their weight lies heavy in the deep. The sea is both grave and keeper, swallowing without answer, without return. Sailors called it the mouth of God. Others whispered the devil's tide, but all knew, once the sea chooses, nothing remains. The storm rages harder. The horizon is gone, now lost behind curtains of rain. Each drop cuts like glass, cold and merciless, slicing into skin already raw with salt. Your hands slip on rope, the fibers soaked, grinding into flesh. Lightning splits the sky, white veins tearing the black apart. For an instant, everything is visible, the ship tilting, the faces strained, the waves rearing like living beasts. Then darkness swallows it again. The storm does not come to pass, it comes to consume. You wonder if the sea knows hunger, if it feeds on wood, on iron, on blood. If storms are its teeth and waves its tongue, if every vanished soul, every shattered mast, every prayer that dissolves into brine is fuel for its endless body. Legends claim the ocean is alive, that beneath the churn, a vast will watches, choosing. Some say it hungers for arrogance, for ships that dare to claim mastery over it. Others believe it hungers for sorrow, for voices that cry too loudly, for prayers it can steal away. And some whisper it hungers for everything, because hunger is all it has ever known. A mast cracks. It splits like bone, splintering, toppling. The sails rip loose, whipping, tearing, vanishing into spray. The deck floods. Water pours over, cold, unrelenting, pulling at boots, dragging bodies down. You cling, your hands numb, your lungs burning. Around you, voices cry out, some to gods, some to mothers, some to no one at all, and each voice vanishes into roar. You think of all the ships before you, all the storms before this one. How many prayers has the sea already taken? How many names lie forgotten? How many faces blurred into silence? The ocean holds them all, yet tells no story. Silence is its only answer, and even silence cannot tell what it swallows. For there are things too deep to name, treasures that never glitter again. Journals, maps, letters carried down unopened, bones curled tight in rusted chains, lullabies sung once, then never again. The ocean holds them all, layered, hidden, without end. You feel yourself sway. The ship lists, the sea pours higher. The storm does not pause, does not falter. It does not care for you, for wood, for sail. It devours, not out of malice, not out of kindness, but because devouring is all it has ever done. And as the storm closes in, as thunder rips the sky again, you sense it, the vastness, the will, the hunger. It does not wait to be understood. It does not wait to be named. It simply takes. You close your eyes. Darkness is no darker than the sky. The salt burns. The roar fills your body. And for a moment, you drift between fear and surrender, between prayer and silence. The storm goes on. The sea goes on. And you are carried into its mouth. The sea keeps no records, no ledgers, no endings. Only whispers, only wreckage, only echoes carried in the tide. You have walked its haunted harbors, followed its phantom lights, stood at the edge of whirlpools and storms. Each tale is both warning and lullaby, both myth and memory. And though sailors prayed, though maps burned, though islands vanished, the sea remained, devouring, remembering, waiting. As you drift into sleep, listen. The tide moves still, patient as breath. The ocean is never finished, and its stories, like waves, always return.